Hey there guys, how's it going? I'm Corey. This is the How to Adult Show. Episodes come out every Monday. Oh, hi Jasper. Episodes come out every Monday and cover all of the basic personal finance topics that we really all should have been taught in school. And speaking of things that we should have been taught in school, this week's episode is going to cover 5 of the best ways to build wealth in your 20s. Unfortunately, because no one teaches us this stuff, very few people ever learn these tips in time to truly take advantage of the opportunity that your 20s presents to allow you to start building wealth. I've always felt that this was such a shame because so many people become interested in building more financial security when they're approaching 30. And then they learn these things and can't help but feel like they missed out on this amazing opportunity that they had in their 20s to really make a massive difference in establishing themselves and their lives financially. So if you know people who are in their late teens or 20s or even early 30s, then make sure that you send them this episode and help them out while they are young and they can get started early. Before we dive in though, I want to say a quick hello and welcome to the How to Adult Show. I'm your host, Corey Fowler, and this is your source for all the important adulting life skills, like personal finance, that you wish someone had just taught you in school. So make sure you hit subscribe, and let's get started. So jumping right into today's episode, tip number 1 to start building wealth in your 20s is to start saving and investing early. And this is one of the reasons why I find it so frustrating that there's so little personal finance education in our standardized school system. Because by not learning this stuff early enough, so many of us miss out on this huge earning opportunity of starting to save and invest while we're young, so that compound interest has the chance to really work its magic and grow into significant wealth over the long course of our lives. If you can dedicate yourself to starting and maintaining some sort of savings regime, 2 magical things are going to happen. First, you're most likely going to have a savings regime for the rest of your life if you start the habit when you're in your 20s, whereas it's much harder to change your habits later on in life if you're not already accustomed to the idea of saving a portion of your income. Second, the money that you save and invest is going to compound and grow so much more if you start doing this in your 20s rather than later in life. This means you're going to have so much more money to be financially free and financially secure in your future if you start practicing this early. And no, unfortunately, you can't just make up the difference if you start saving double later in life. That's just not how compound interest works, unfortunately. I'm not going to go into detail on this topic in this episode here today, but I've talked about it in loads of other episodes and will continue to do so. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I say compound interest, then I recommend checking out episode number 38 called The Secret to Building Wealth with the Least Effort, because this episode has a really good breakdown of compound interest that will absolutely, hopefully, convince you to start saving and investing as early as possible. Tip number 2 is to set financial goals. So many people don't bother thinking about what their financial goals are while they're still in their 20s because there's this overarching messaging to this age group that we have time. Our 20s are for having fun. We shouldn't worry about money or other adult stuff until we start getting older. And while yes, I completely agree, you should absolutely be having fun in your 20s. I could probably take a page out of your book and have a little bit more fun while I'm still in my 20s. This doesn't have to happen at the exclusion of thinking about what it is that you might want later in life, setting these goals for yourself, and then starting to think about what you can do today to help yourself start working towards these goals now while you have the opportunity and while you have fewer expenses and obligations and time. You have time. And if you've binged any of these episodes, you'll know that I am a huge fan of goal setting for everything in life really, but setting a few clear financial goals for yourself while you're still in your 20s is going to help provide you with direction and motivation and something to work towards while still allowing you to have fun. This does not have to be at the exclusion of having fun. So I know it's so cliche to say, but I have to say it. Before you know it, you're going to be approaching that age where society tells you to start taking things more seriously, and it feels like Overnight, all of a sudden, you're expected to have your stuff together. And while growing up can definitely suck sometimes, it's all going to be so much easier if you've already been slowly and quietly working towards some of your goals instead of just spending money through the whole set of your 20s and figuring that you're going to worry about getting your financial stuff together later. I could talk about this forever, but we should probably move on to tip number 3, which is to establish a low cost of living. Start out on the right foot when you're young and work to create a life that you enjoy, but that doesn't cost you every penny of every paycheck to maintain. If you let yourself fall into the cycle of keeping up with the Joneses this early in life, then it's going to be really, really hard to break out of that cycle later in life when you find that you've saved absolutely no money, you find that your lifestyle costs a lot to maintain, and you and your family possibly are used to maintaining a certain lifestyle. It can be hard to change that. So if you ever feel yourself falling into the trap of keeping up with the Joneses and needing to buy that new thing that Instagram's been pushing on you, here's a little hack that you can use to switch your brain off of spending mode and onto saving mode. So what I like to think about is that your 20s is basically the only period of your life where you get an entirely free pass for being cheap and grungy in the best way possible. Your 20s is when it's actually cool to shop secondhand for your clothes and to furnish your apartment with weird crud that you found at Value Village. So use this to your advantage. Use this period of your 20s to your advantage and create a low cost of living for yourself while you're in this decade of life. Create that habit early of living frugally and saving money by spending less than you earn. Now, this isn't to say that you should only eat potatoes and rice, but more so to highlight that it's entirely possible to create a life that you absolutely love, that you enjoy so much, but that doesn't cost you everything that you have. And the best time to experiment with this and to find your happy medium lifestyle for what you earn versus what you spend is in your 20s. So don't miss this opportunity because you're concerned with keeping up with your friends and buying all the same things and better things. Just don't bother. Tip number 4 is to improve your career skills. So, having good financial habits is more important than income level when it comes to building wealth. That's sort of a base rule. That being said though, once you've created good financial habits like saving and investing, then the best way to build wealth is to increase your income. And increasing your income often comes from improving your career skills. You need to start improving your skills so that you can either bring more to the table at your job, move to a better position, or start your side hustle and business ideas that are going to help you break out of that 9-to-5 paycheck to paycheck system. Whatever the right path is for you, the key is that you consistently and actively work on getting better at whatever it is that you do and finding ways to bring more value to the table. From there, contrary to much baby boomer advice, you also need to practice being audacious and asking for what you think you deserve. Don't sit back and hope that someone notices the work that you're putting in. Instead, practice expressing the value that you bring to your work or to a job for your clients. Don't be afraid to move positions to a better salaried offer if one comes available, and don't be afraid to keep your net wide open when it comes to finding new positions. For my 2 cents, one of the best ways to improve your career skills and increase your income is to learn and to practice something that will help you start working for yourself. If you're remotely entrepreneurial, then the opportunities for starting businesses and side hustles these days are endless. So always work on learning something new and improving, and it will absolutely start to translate into higher earning potential for you over the course of your life. And if you've already followed some of our other tips and you're spending less than you make, this will translate into creating a very financially secure life for yourself. And finally, tip number 5 is to commit to learning more about managing your finances. And this might be the most important part of the whole episode. I started out by saying that we're not taught personal finance skills in school, so it's on us to educate ourselves and work on improving our own financial literacy. You don't need to learn the ins and outs of stock market analysis here. That's not what I'm talking about doing. Instead, this could be as simple as picking up one personal finance book to read every year, reading it in January, and then spending the rest of the year focusing on implementing just some of the skills that you learned in that book that you think are accessible to you at this point in time. You don't need to go out there and learn everything at once and manage your money perfectly from day one onwards. There's a lot of time to learn in this first decade of your adult life, and you will truly, I promise you, be amazed by how far you can get and how much you can learn if you just slowly and consistently work on learning a new lesson, applying it to your life, and making that a habit before you move on to the next lesson and the next skill that you want to learn. You can pick up books, follow finance educators, enroll in a finance course. The ways that you can choose to learn are endless, and a lot of them are free these days because the internet is awesome. And whatever you choose to learn, it can take as much or as little time as you want. All that I ask is that you commit yourself to learning some basic personal finance skills in your 20s so that you don't arrive at the next decade not knowing if you're going to be able to get approved for a vehicle loan or a mortgage. I truly could have made this an absolutely massive list, but I didn't want to overwhelm you, so I stuck with just the 5 tips that I think are the most important to learn and put into practice if you want to start building financial security and wealth in your 20s to achieve financial freedom sooner than you think is possible in your life. So trust me, future you is going to thank you for putting even just one of these tips into practice. So if you feel like you can only handle starting with one thing at a time for the time being, that's totally okay. But I'd be curious, actually, let me know which one you're going to choose in the comments for this episode. Just curious, would love to know what seems the most attainable, manageable, whatever it is that draws you to one of these tips. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave me a comment to say hi. I really do love hearing from you, and it's immensely helpful to getting this important information out there to other people, and I appreciate you so very much for it. If you want to learn more, as always, you can find loads of resources and next steps linked down below in the description. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you right back here next Monday when we release a brand new episode of the How to Adult Show.